Elden Ring PvP, but every time I win a match, I have to remove something from my build. I'm not doing any sort of special prep, I'm just starting out with my typical ranked match build and working my way down from there. I'll just be choosing whatever I want to get rid of after each match, some things certainly hurting a lot more than others. Quick disclaimer, and an unfortunate one at that, after recording all the clips, I realized that none of them recorded with audio. It's a totally random bug that can happen while recording on Xbox, and rather than re-recording the entire thing, I'm just gonna do my best to voice over all of the clips and play some music as well. Once I remove an item from my equipment menu, I'm essentially just not allowed to use that slot anymore. You'll see me hard swapping my main weapon sometimes, which I'm calling fair since I'm only using the one slot. Alright, so getting into the first match, of course not exactly a challenge yet since it's just my normal build, but I did end up facing this power-stanced bleed spear bloodhound stepper, so definitely had to focus up, but with a few well-timed roll catches I pulled it off. The first thing I decided to take off was my gauntlets, which was arguably pretty important because it dropped me below a valuable poise breakpoint. A lot of these matches go to show why I run this setup. Beast Roar is just a great tool at range, Storm Stomp has amazing utility, and the S-Stock Lance combo is perfect for roll catching and mix-ups. Losing the gauntlets wasn't a big deal so far, so next I dropped the precious Erdtree's favorite talisman. That meant I'd have less health and stamina, but since I wasn't wearing my gauntlets, I no longer needed it for the equip load at least. I definitely wasn't feeling particularly handicapped at this point still, so even though this match was kinda sketchy, it basically felt like it was me playing sloppy more than anything. Using Stomp to bait out a trade finished it out, and I decided to say goodbye to another talisman slot. It does hurt, but still, 15% roar damage is something I can get over. Next adversary, and oh god, it's the Bloodhound Step guy again, except this time I'm missing 2 talismans and an armor piece. Fortunately, I got in some damage early and barely spaced that final attack. I checked if I could drop the Great Jar Talisman yet, but I was still heavy load, so I opted to drop my precious Lionel Helm instead. I could have dropped something worse from my hotbar, but I figured I'd front load at least a few of my better items. On to the next match. I'm never usually too afraid of a great sword, but what I am afraid of is lag. I got out of the lag spike for free though, and was able to land a few lance hits before ending it with a roar. At this point I realized I could remove the Great Jar Talisman without going to heavy load, so that wasn't really a disadvantage at all going into the next fight. For the next battle, I figured I'd make use of a few of my consumables while I still had them, and this is where I first truly started to notice that I wasn't winning trades nearly as convincingly as normal, so I started playing a bit more carefully before switching back on the aggro and finishing it out. This is when I said goodbye to my very last talisman slot, bumping me down to 56 poise, which is definitely still a workable amount. The next fight went pretty quick, and since I didn't end up trading or anything, basically the only thing that was negatively affected by my build being cut in half here was my roar damage. I actually forgot to remove something after this one somehow, so I did one more fight and nearly died to someone great shield poking with a heavy thrusting sword, barely squeaked out a roar on the running attack, and then went ahead to remove my fan daggers. My build was looking pretty bare bones by then, and I thought I might be seeing more shield poke, so I made use of my Physic Flask. This player wasn't really hugging the shield so much, or wearing very heavy armor, so even with the build as scuffed as it was, trading into a dagger swing still wasn't going to be a problem. I decided to remove my FP flasks next, which I hadn't really been using anyways. After that, I planned to drop the boiled crab, so this match and the next weren't really much of an increased challenge. I still had my core tools, and as long as I could roar, stomp, and poke, I was feeling pretty confident. Despite losing the crab not really mattering much at all, the next player was probably the best one I'd fought so far, and I was punished for a lot of mistakes that I was getting away with before. A hybrid mage main-handing a halberd is no joke, but by the skin of my teeth and some awkward tracking, I managed to win the fight. Definitely wasn't excited about losing my pants after that one, but off they went all the same. Going into the following match, I still had my dignity, and most of all I still had my weapons, so I was still confident that with some careful play, I could keep up the streak. I ate a big punish for a scuffed hard swap right off the bat, before being taken off guard by a stomp for huge damage. I brought it back a little bit with a good whiff punish and some roll catches, but after taking another stomp and realizing how much more squishy I am, the fight got super close, and I was really missing those fan daggers. All I needed was one more hit to finish it though, and after running around for way too long, I finally landed it. There was no way I would have won that fight without my physic flask, so what better a time to get rid of it. Of course, the next player immediately hits their physic flask and boiled crab, which I just watched feeling sad about the state of my build. Okay, if there was ever going to be a confidence booster going into the last few fights of the challenge, that was it. It doesn't matter how awful your build is, few things are more important than knowing how to roll. Next to go was my trusty S-stock. Left with only my chest armor and lance, I probably had about 1/20th the build that this behemoth had, fat rolling, red flasks and a dream, no match for the nearly naked. Although next fight, I really would be. I wasn't really happy with this match. I got stuck up in some blood flies like I'd never even seen the spell in my life, and with barely over 1000 HP, 3 beast roars was all it took to end the fight. Since that one wasn't so satisfying, I decided to do another before dropping the lance. I messed around with the light rolling a little since I hardly ever use it, and this one was a lot more fun since I was actually up close and personal. I got some good use out of roar and stomp, and it was definitely a better one to end on for sure, and not at all disastrous. Okay, let's pretend that didn't happen and go into the real final match. I accidentally used my non-existent S-stock and nearly died at the same time, so just one more fight, I promise. It was the squishy Godskin guy again, which made for a pretty funny fight, and it was pretty clean, so for real this time, I was decently satisfied with calling the challenge complete. But the challenge isn't truly complete until I win a match with just my bare fists, so with my inventory being a perfectly clean slate, I grabbed one more summon sign. I wasn't actually expecting to come remotely close to winning a match with my fists, but when this guy took off all his gear for a fight, maybe it was really going to be possible. No, it wasn't. And with that just about does it for the video. If you want to see more challenges like this, I would love to hear your suggestions. And of course, if you want to see more Elden Ring Duel content in the future, I would massively appreciate you hitting subscribe. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.